All right, folks, welcome to the last talk of the day. But before that, two quick announcements. Well, three. First of all, after this talk, there will be the demo party in the room across the hall there in Harper Hacking at 6 p.m. Excuse me, at 6 p.m. I'm talking 24-hour time. Also at the same time will be the amateur radio testing in Lockhaven Village, which is just a little bit further down the hall. And back in here at 8 p.m. will be the banquet dinner. All right, at this point, I'd like to introduce Corvus, who will be speaking on why developers hate cybersecurity. Please give her a warm welcome.
Thank you. You have no idea how good it is to be here. I've been under a rock for so long, and no lie, as I walked into the hotel and I saw other hacker folks, it was like, yes, I'm back amongst my tribe. So very glad to be here. Why developers hate cybersecurity? What this talk is about is, well, we know developers hate cybersecurity, and the reasons are pretty simple. As hackers and penetration testers, what we do, we break their toys, we call their babies ugly, we victim blame, and our guidance is incomprehensible and arcane. Did I miss anything? No. Now, you're probably wondering, how can I say such horrible things? Well, it's pretty easy. I've spent a little more than 20 years, more than that I really don't want to admit to, in development, web development, desktop, mobile. If there's a way to mangle code, I've probably touched on it at some point or other. In 2017, I made the decision to leave the development world and go into cybersecurity. And as of this moment, my primary duties, well, my full-time gig is I work as a technical editor, amongst other things, for a pen testing company called Black Hills Information Security. The company is based in South Dakota. Don't hold that against them. We really are nice people, and most of us are scattered all around the world. As an editor, though, of pen test reports, it is my pleasure and occasional pain to read as many or more than 200 pen test reports per year. And I've been doing this since 2018, so you guys can do the math. Now, every single report that I read does this to my developer's heart at some point. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the how and the why. In any of these things, there's always good news and bad news. Now, we know that there's a stressful relationship between developers and security folk. The good news is that we can do better. We can change what we do and how we do it. And then there's the bad news. We can't fix our customers. We have to fix ourselves. And I'm going to talk a lot about this because when it comes down to the fundamentals, when we change what we do, the entire dynamic changes. And part of the reason why I give this talk is to raise awareness, because I talk to pen testers all the time and they have no clue what kinds of angst and anguish and strife developers go through just trying to get things done. And in order for us to do better, we need to know. What's the goal of this talk? Well, I want to help us improve our relationships with developers. It would be nice if we could normalize good security practices. And if that were to happen, then good security would be achievable for everyone. Yes, I have a dream. And there's also the possibilities that we can open up new revenue streams. I'll be talking about that towards the end of the talk. So, the problem. You can't solve the problem if you don't know it's there. So let's start with that. The first thing we do is we break the developer's toys. We write in, we do a pen test, We find vulnerabilities, flaws, issues, then we ride out. And on our way out, we drop a gift, a cryptic report that is almost useless. And the reason people don't like this, humans don't like it when their stuff is broken. Yes, I know there's a typo, it's deliberate. So, how many people in this room have actually written code? Show of hands. All right. How many people write code for fun? Show of hands. Okay. Now, for those of you who are not professional developers, who don't do code for your primary source of income, I want you to stop and think for a moment about how much of yourself you invest into the code that you write. Now imagine that you're doing this professionally, that this is your bread and butter. People who are developing code, developing systems, are often, typically, dealing with unreasonable timelines. They're dealing with insane expectations, and security is not taught. It isn't taught in college. It isn't taught in boot camps. It just isn't taught. And that's a real problem. And that's something that I hope we can start to change. So let's talk about how we call the babies ugly. Now, as a very, very simple example, I'm going to use user enumeration as an example of a commonly found flaw. You know, I know, enumeration is bad. But a developer may see a tool that lets you go in and look up a username or somebody else in the company. They're going to see this as a friendly UI element. They're going to see this as a useful tool. And they don't think about the fact that this can and will and is leveraged by malicious actors to figure out who they can attack and social engineer. So, and this is a problem. I read these pen test reports and I'm looking at it and what the tester observed, what it was that they did, how they pwned the tool or the app or the endpoint, and I'm going, my God, it's working exactly as it was designed. The tester doesn't know that, but I do, because I've done that. So when we go in and we break their stuff apart, of course, they're going to be annoyed and think we're obnoxious because we just crapped all over what they invested time and energy and skull sweat into performing exactly the way it does. We're also very insensitive to the amount of work that is involved in maintaining, updating, and patching software and systems. So let me tell you a story. We're going to jump into the Wayback Machine. Back in 2014, I was a web developer for a company that their primary source of income had to do with online systems. And it was a cold fusion house, still is probably. And, well, you may recall that Adobe bought Cold Fusion at some point, and back then we had been using the pre-Adobe version for a while, and Adobe did was what Adobe does, and they said we are no longer going to support pre-Adobe versions of Cold Fusion, and that means that if you don't upgrade, all of your SSL is going to go bye-bye. So we had to jump we didn't have to jump 3 entire integers. My boss, the CTO, weighed the options. Should we just upgrade the minimum amount to be able to support SSL and not kill our revenue flow? Or should we bring it up to at what was the most current version at the time? And he chose the latter, which was the better choice given the environment and how business works. But the problem was we had less than 6 months to update tens of thousands of lines of legacy code. It was a death march, and we made it with about a week to spare. I still have PTSD. Why am I telling you this story? You know, what I just gave you is a hugely abbreviated version of what the experience was actually like. But the bottom line is upgrading and updating is not a painless process. If it only involves changing a few lines of code here and there because this particular formula or function or feature behaves just slightly differently than it did before, well, great, wonderful. But if you're asking people to go from Windows XP to Windows 11, yeah, there's going to be a lot of pain involved. And there's also possibly going to be, well, hardware changes. So there's a lot more involved in this, and we blithely say, well, just upgrade, just patch. It's not that easy. The older the systems, the more pain is involved. And what I see over and over again, and what I try to do with the pen testers that I work with, is to help them understand that we have to explain why this matters, why it's important, because the process is going to be painful. And they need to understand that. And if you are doing penetration testing, if you are writing pen test reports, I want you to stop and think, how often do you actually consider how much pain you are inflicting on your customers? So, the other thing is for every end-of-life, unpatched, or out-of-date system, I guarantee there is someone at that company who wants them to be patched. That means, as cybersecurity professionals, as penetration testers, we have to give them the ammunition. What version is in use? Is the version end of life? When did that version go EOL? Can you provide links to articles or references defining the vulnerabilities, talking about the CVEs, talking about any proof of concept exploits that are out there? The more ammunition that you can give to the people at those companies, the better, because then they can do this internally to get those systems fixed. They're relying on us for that ammunition. So please take the time and give it to them. Another thing, we suck at helping people understand. I mean, how many times? Yeah, just patch it, update it. Why? Why does it matter? Who cares? It's old. It still works. We have to explain it. Now, let me tell you another story. From 2009 to 2012, I was the web development manager for a small company based out in Agoura Hills. And one of the projects that I efforted and launched was the very first e-commerce system that that particular company had had. And I did what I do. I went to the people in the company and I talked to the different stakeholders and I got, what is it that you need? I mean, I talked to everybody from customer support to the developers who are writing the actual application. I even talked to the frickin' receptionist. What do you need this system to do? What are your concerns? How can I make this happen for you? And my team and I took all of this information and we ground it up and we went looking for solutions and we found one and we acid tested it and then we went and we did another one, back and forth and back and forth. Finally, we built it, we tested it, we ran internal tests. I kid you not, the day before we launched, the night, I'm talking after 3 p.m., before we were getting ready to pull the trigger, the sales manager for the company, one of the C-suite folks, sends an 11-page email to me and to the entire C-suite listing everything that is wrong with this e-commerce solution. This is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. At no point did this 11-page email ever state one thing that he wanted instead. Not once. I've read thousands of reports, and a lot of times we do the same thing. So the recommendations typically are generic, unhelpful, and not focused on the client environment. That's not a good thing. Has anyone here tried to wrap their brains around NIST compliance documents? And how many of you have survived without trauma? Yeah, it's really hard, and I understand the challenge. Compliance documentation has to be generic because it has to fit a lot of different scenarios. But when we go in to a specific environment for a specific company in a specific industry, we are up to our eyeballs in their systems, and we have an idea of what it is they're trying to achieve. And we can do a better job of making sure that we're helping them solve the problem and providing practicable guidance. If we are not actually helping to solve these issues in a way that can be handled, then we're part of the problem. So, the solution. Identifying the fact that there is a problem is step one. Step two is a little more involved. First, we have to acknowledge it exists. Then it's like any other project. Determine the scope. How big is the issue? Not just for us, but for the customer you're dealing with. Are there new or different ways for us to approach these old issues? And this is one of the biggest things that I'm seeing more of, and that I want to encourage us as a community to do even more. And that is to seek inclusion as part of the solution. The whole idea of a purple team. You're not just a blue team defending, you're not just a red team attacking, you're a purple team working together so that you can find specific issues, find specific vulnerabilities, and find specific solutions to help patch them and make everything more solid. Another tactic for change has to do with how we sell what it is we're doing. We need to start selling security to our customers as a good marketing tool for them. And to really bring this point home, when I say the word Volvo, what comes to mind? Volvo has made a niche for themselves. They are the safest cars on the road. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not saying that they aren't. But what they have done is they have associated safety so firmly with their name that anytime you think of the word Volvo, you think safety. Why can't we do that? I also touched on academia. All right, I've been in IT for decades. It wasn't until 2017 I made the decision to go back to school, and courtesy of COVID, I went straight from finishing my bachelor's, going on and finishing my master's. And I can tell you, as a recent graduate, our academia is awful about security. Not only how they teach it, or rather don't teach it, but their internal systems are Swiss cheese. Sometimes it's tissue paper. You want an easy ponage? Yeah, go hit a university. Guaranteed. So what I'd like to see us doing Whether you're doing it individually or with the organizations or the companies you're with, approach the colleges and universities and if anything, encourage them to incorporate security, or better yet, good security, into the curriculum, especially if it's a computer science. I mean, an ordinary computer science degree should have at least one class that deals with things like SQL injection, data validation, something. And what I would like to see is that we help academia, that we help these universities understand that by failing to include security as part of their curriculum, they are actually harming their students, handicapping them, and by extension, harming the communities that they go out into and the companies where they will be doing work in the future. I'd also like to see us doing more with making security fun. Now, the pandemic has been great for streaming events. You guys know what fun a CTF is. Why can't we do CTF like esports? Stream it on Twitch, have real competition, have some, okay, you can get bug bounties and whatnot, but that isn't really glorious. There's no fun, there's no heat of the moment sort of thing. What if we could take a CTF, something that maybe goes through every vulnerability in DVWA, and have a prize for somebody who can go through and exploit everyone and find patches for it? I mean, something like that. We have to find ways to make these CTFs cooler, because CTFs are not only challenging, but they're a wonderful way to help spread knowledge, to help teach practical tactics, and to help people of all ages learn how to solve real-world issues. Also, software companies. Now, software companies, they respond to what they perceive as customer wants and needs. I guarantee if these companies start marketing, start doing their research analysis and marketing research on whether or not ordinary people out there think that security is important, they're going to find that security can become a feature, not a loss leader. And I'm not talking just little companies, I'm talking companies like this. If Oracle and Microsoft can actually start selling security, how much of a difference would that mean? It's starting to change. But I would love to have the people in this room do whatever they can. You get a survey from a company, and they ask, what is important to you? Tell them, how safe is your system? If you don't tell them, they're not going to know. And this is another area where it's something that hasn't happened other than with large companies that are doing a lot of next generation AI, automagic, whatever. Yeah, fine. We need to start looking into mitigation as a service. Now, what I mean by that, we know how to correct the vulnerabilities. And I already said, we're up to our eyeballs in their systems. What if we were able to establish an ongoing relationship with a company where, companies will have lawyers on retainer? Why not have a hacker on retainer? Why not, instead of software as a service, mitigation as a service? One of the things BHIS has started doing is we now are providing SOC services. And we're even adding in automated, continuing vulnerability testing. This is something where this could be a real way of generating revenue if you're working in penetration testing, providing a way to help, okay, yeah, I'm going to go in, I'm going to find your vulnerabilities, but I also want to work with your development team, with your network team, with all of your IT people so that we can help identify practical fixes to solve the problems, and that's how we get to be heroes. And again, liability concerns, well, if you're doing pen testing, you've already got NDAs and SLAs and all kinds of get out of jail free cards, hopefully. You're already dealing with the legalese. Get a lawyer involved, have the verbiage written up, but make sure that you're able to go deeper and provide additional mitigation services beyond just a single patch. If anything, use it as an opportunity to raise awareness within the companies so that they have a better understanding and appreciation for the fact that this is a problem, and it's a problem that can be solved. But it's not fire and forget. There's something else that I would like to see us do more of, and that is, for those of you who are working in cybersecurity professionally, I know that you have nightmares. When I switched from development to cybersecurity, I started having bad nightmares, and I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I don't have them anymore. InfoSec draws heavily from military personnel and concepts: engagement, perimeter, rules of engagement, threat surface. Those are military terms, and they are deeply, deeply ingrained in cybersecurity. And the attitudes go along as well, that never show weakness, always stand up straight. Yes, I'm a professional. Nothing flusters me because I'm the super hacker. No, you know what? That is not serving us. I guarantee that if you have children and you've been in security for more than a picosecond, you probably have nightmares about your child being approached online by someone who will traffic them or worse. If you're lucky enough to still have grandparents who are living, you probably live in fear that their retirement income, if they're lucky enough to have it, will be stolen because grandma's favorite password is your name, your birth date, or the name of her very fluffy, yappy dog. These are our fears. And if you help share these fears with the people we're trying to help, then that humanizes us. That stiff upper lip stuff leaves us as adversarial. But if they understand the depth of your dedication and the motivation that you have to help keep grandma from losing her retirement, to keep little Johnny or little Sally safe from predators, that helps them understand why we're doing, why you are doing what you do. Other things, obviously, invite them to coffee, lunch, dinner, snacks, or better yet, bring them to a conference like this. Help them see the mindset, the fact that we're just people too. Yes, we have funny colored hair and we're all different shapes and sizes, and we're fun to be with. We're people. These kinds of things are beneficial. Share your story. All of these things help to change the equation. Business as usual is not serving us. And the bad news is we cannot control our customers or clients. We can't control what other people are trying to do to help or not help sometimes. We can't change other people's choices. What we can change is how we interact with others. We can change our actions, our attitudes, our behaviors, our come-froms. And when we do that, you change one side of the equation and everything changes. It's true in mathematics, it's true in marriage, it's true in cybersecurity. And here's what I know about this community. I've worked in information technology professionally since the early 1990s. And the cybersecurity community is the most dedicated, the most driven, talented, and determined group of humans I have ever met. You're also the most giving. Think about how many people who are in this community do things like search and rescue, or helping feed the homeless, or the volunteers at this conference. Volunteers giving of their time, their attention, their resources to help make something like this happen. The commitment to help others is deeper in this community than in any other aspect of information technology I know of. And I believe in the marrow of my bones that we can change the world together. And I want to encourage you to do what you can to make that happen. That's it. Questions? Yes.
You mentioned that sometimes your customers leverage the report sort of as ammo for their operations team to kind of show that the business is making these items.
Mm-hmm.
How often do you hear back from customers after the report delivery or the report readout when they share that they get a lot of pushback from enterprise and their operations team?
Excellent question. The question is, in terms of providing ammunition to the customers, how often do we get feedback back? Unfortunately, I'm not on the penetration testing team myself, but I do talk with them. And this is part of the building a relationship with the client. If a pen test report is a fire and forget, it's a one-off and there's no follow-up, you're not getting any repeat business, it's very difficult to find out what exactly happened once the report was done. And this is part of why internally at BHIS we stress very, very much that we want to provide the best quality report possible, because I guarantee if your list of IP addresses has duplicates or invalid data, or if there's something in there that is not accurate, somebody reading is going to go, oh, this is wrong, oh, this report is bogus, and they throw it away. And then, of course, you do get the companies that they're just looking to tick off a box for compliance purposes. If they're doing that, there's nothing you can do. But if you can establish a relationship with these companies where you're saying, look, you do the ROE, you do the rules of engagement, there's the initial marketing, there's rules of engagement. Hopefully during the penetration test you are interacting with the people in-house when you find certain things, especially if you find a critical vulnerability. You want to tell people about that right away. If they've got a persistent presence in there, if they've got persistent malware, you got to tell them right away. And I've seen multiple times where that has happened, and the test will wind up cutting short because they have to patch this now. And if you do that and can help prove through your actions that you are there serving their best interests, that makes them want to come back to you again. And if you can get that repeat business, getting that feedback is wonderful. We're fortunate enough at BHIS that we have a lot of repeat business. And some companies, we do quarterly vulnerability analyses for them. And it's wonderful when we can see that they are taking action and they are mitigating things. And then their environment changes and something else crops up and we hit them for that. But so it's something that not all companies do. It's something that not all companies are capable of doing. And it's something that I think we need to do more of. And possibly if you can even have your salespeople or whoever is doing the initial contacts, schedule a 6-month follow-up call. Something as simple as follow-up with the customer. Hey, hi, I'm from Acme Security Services. How are you guys doing? Have you been able to resolve some of the vulnerabilities? Do you have a couple of minutes to talk? Something as simple as that can change that dynamic. Additional questions? Yes?
We were talking about this earlier. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about the implementation or role of artificial intelligence.
Yes, we were having a lovely conversation about artificial intelligence, and this is a conversation that we've been having internally. The testers pod that I work with most closely, we got to talking about ChatGPT and other artificial intelligence. I hate the term because it's not really intelligent, but anyway. The role of these artificial intelligence systems is going to become much more dynamic, and I mean, some of the people I'm working with, they're using ChatGPT to refine their malware that they're using in engagements to test things, whether it's Python. I use macros in Word to help format reports and do things in an automatic way so that I can go through more reports in a day and not have to do so much manual formatting and correcting. And there was one thing, I talked to at least 5 people internally, and none of them could figure out how to write the macro to do this one thing that was driving me crazy. ChatGPT did. So if you are not looking at the large language models and other automated tools to be able to go through and refine your the scripts that you're using, the tools that you're using, or even if you're writing the test report, you're having a hard time explaining why, okay, I keep using enumeration as a simple low-hanging fruit, but it is, or SQL injection. Why does data validation matter? Well, go to ChatGPT, say, ChatGPT, please help me write a executive summary that explains why these SQL injections are dangerous. You may be excellent with a command line. Well, you know, all of these large language models, they can help you refine things. Caveat, there are good hits and bad misses. I've had both. So they still need adult supervision, but if you leverage them and go through an iterative process to refine things, you can refine not only the exploits and the codes, and maybe you're developing open source software and sharing that with the community. Maybe there's something that you can't quite fix. Leverage these large language models like ChatGPT to be able to refine that, and also if you're having a hard time finding the words, because words is hard, ChatGPT can help with that too. Did that answer your question? Okay. Anything else? All right. Thank you so much, and good to be here. As you can see, I'm on the interwebs. I'm everywhere.